It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI.
So I became a corporate lawyer at the ripe old age of 23. And literally from the moment I sat in that cheap office chair, I thought, oh no, what have I done? So the very first thing I did, I built my own website. I started studying SEO, but I also tapped into what I knew my audience liked. I talk about my personal journey of what's happened with my parents dying and me having brain surgery. And then a lot of people have been like, by the way, how have you built this kind of business? Like, you're a lawyer who does this and you only sell 2 things. And so I really wanted to give it all away. I taught my funnel building strategy, how I think about email list building, the way I turn all of these stories into content. Yeah, I don't know why we overcomplicate it with all these tips and tricks and trends. But I'm like, my product is really good. I'm really good at explaining it because I understand what you need and what problem it solves and why that will help you. And then I just show up and do a really good job with the product.
Some of my favorite success stories are ones where people, they struggle a little bit in the beginning and they find the thing that works. But even in the beginning of that new thing, they're not quite sure. And then boom, things start to take off. And that's exactly what I'm happy to share with you today. Today we have Sam Vander, who was an attorney doing her thing. The moment she sat in her chair after getting that attorney job, she hated it, despised it, and wanted to turn things around. And it didn't happen right away, but now she has a 7-figure business. And in this episode, she tells us how it all happened. She tells us a lot of the things that we should be doing today that most entrepreneurs aren't to stand out in a crowded and potentially even boring space. She also tells us a little bit about her email funnels and things that are working too. She's written a new book called When I Start My Business, I'll Be Happy, with a question mark at the end. It's a little sarcastic, in fact, because she brings a lot of truth that a lot of other people do not about the world of entrepreneurship and actually what it's like. I very much resonated with this conversation. She and I both are going to be speaking at the Craft and Commerce event in Boise, Idaho, which is an event run by Kit. And I won't make you wait any longer. Here she is, Sam Vander from samvanderwheelen.com and all the other good things. Oh, she has a podcast too that you can subscribe to after this on your terms. Anyway, let's dive in. Sam, welcome to SPI. Thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast.
Hey, Pat. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited. We have switched our podcast here from a primarily interview-based podcast to now more solo episodes where I'm going pretty deep on some topics. However, every once in a while, I want to bring people back on who know exactly what they're talking about and relate to what part in the business journey people are in right now. And I think it's very perfect for you to come on the show right now for a few reasons. Number one, you have this book that's just come out, which is super inspiring, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. But you also started out, like many people who are listening started out, which you had a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9, however you want to call it, because you were in law. Tell me about where you were before you started business and kind of how you transitioned into what you do now.
So I became a corporate lawyer at the ripe old age of 23, had no idea what I was doing or what I was getting myself into. And literally from the moment I sat in that cheap office chair in this high skyscraper in Philadelphia, where I'm from, I thought, oh no, what have I done? And I don't know if anyone else can relate, but sometimes you do these things in life where you work really hard towards something and you get there and then you're like, wait, why did I actually want to do this? I'm not really sure. And I wasn't into any self-development work at the time, didn't even know anybody who was. And so unfortunately, I spent the next like 5-6 years as a lawyer in this very victim-y place of like, why did this happen to me? Why did the universe force me to become a lawyer? This is so miserable. Everything sucks. Everybody sucks. I just hated it. And I literally got to the point where I could not stand, like I started to hear myself speaking and being like, I'm annoyed by what I'm hearing coming out of my mouth. It was actually a very scary plane incident on the way home from Amsterdam that just literally shook me into being like, what are you doing with your life? You have to make a change.
That's great. When you think back to your decision to even start down that path, can you remember why you chose that in the first place?
Yes, absolutely. So I talk a lot about this actually in my book, When I Start My Business, I'll Be Happy. But I had a very traumatic upbringing, very violent childhood. And for some reason, I don't know if I just watched too many episodes of Law and Order or something, but for some reason in my mind, being a lawyer was like the fastest way to safety, for one. That was like, if I go become a lawyer, I'll be super independent. No one, I'll be financially secure. That's a very serious job. Like it just felt very safe to me. But I never stopped to think about whether that was something that would make me happy or was even like in alignment with my personality at all.
And then the moment you sat in that chair, you just felt something. I feel like that's really common for a lot of people because we have these dreams and aspirations, and it's like once we get there, everything will change, and then it doesn't, right? We feel that way when a person, becomes a millionaire. They're like, okay, I'm a millionaire now, and life is just as bad as it was before. Like that doesn't change anything. When did things start to change for you? Was it in fact when you started to think of your business?
Yeah, so I think two things happened. One was that, and the firm picked up on this pretty early on, even though I was super young and this was not normal for a young lawyer, I started going out and bringing in all kinds of business. Like that was a lot more fun to me. I would go out and find clients. I would mingle with people and be like securing these like really, really big accounts. And they would be like, you got this person to come to the firm. I was so young and so inexperienced that I couldn't even service the clients that I was bringing in. I would have to hand them off to senior partners who would be their lawyer, but I got all the credit in the firm. So that sparked this little like, oh, I like the business side of this. I don't like so much like sitting here and billing and looking at documents all the time. So that started to happen. And then I think the more miserable I was as an attorney, I started looking for ways outside of work to feel more fulfilled. So I started getting more and more into like health and fitness and travel and doing all this stuff, which opened me up to this world all of a sudden of like, wait, there are people out there doing like coaching and selling online courses. And I started reading blogs at the time was, more popular. And so yeah, I just kind of fell into this world that little corporate lawyer me, had no idea existed.
Oh, yeah. I'm so curious about this because it's that moment of that spark that ignites you and you start to sort of open your eyes to all the different possibilities. I felt that in 2008 after listening to some podcasts, and that changed my life. But I also remember when I started thinking about things outside of my architecture work that I grew up doing, I was like, okay, I could go in a million different places. I'm going to try everything. What were some of the things you did initially to try to explore this new world that you were entering in?
The very first thing I did was start a food blog called Barrister's Beat, which I was like BE.
Let's go.
It was blog. Awesome. And my first recipe was this is so embarrassing, was for steel cut oats with apples that were like sauteed in coconut oil and cinnamon. I'll never forget it. The pictures were horrible. Like I cannot even believe it. And I remember just like some random person commented on one of, not that recipe, but a different recipe. And I remember running out to tell my secretary, Colleen, like some random person on the internet, like saw my content. And That was so exciting to me. But I don't know if you felt this way. I think at that time it really unlocked for me this idea that maybe I am creative because I thought being creative meant I had to sit and draw pictures, which I cannot do still to this day. But when I started like, I can take pictures and I can write and I like designing things on Canva at the time and, things like that, I thought maybe I have a little bit of a creativity spark in me that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. And then I started a health coaching business.
Oh, health coach. So, okay. So food, health coach. Yeah, there's something about how quickly you can create, right? Back in blogging, it's like you write something, you post it, and it's like it's out there. And it didn't take years like it takes, I'm sure, with clients to get to the end goal, or with architecture, it was like years to build these buildings and draw up these plans. But, I could write a blog post and post it out, And then I could do another one tomorrow, and I can do another one tomorrow. And it's like every day was like a renewed energy in this creation. And I still feel that. So you went from food blog to health, kind of just like talking about the things you were kind of doing already anyway. Did those things take off like you wanted them to? And how did you land into the one that actually started to work for you?
Yeah. So I started the health coaching business and still ran that while I was still working as an attorney. And then I actually negotiated with the firm for me to work half time, but keep my full-time salary, which was something else. And I don't know how I
awesome.
did that, but I did. Yeah.
There's a book right there.
Yeah. If you bring in enough business, they'll kind of look the other way. So that was helpful. But I wanted that time to kind of build up some capital and get the coaching business. So I had some clients here and there. But actually, a funnier thing happened, Pat. I was like, okay, well, when I stopped being a lawyer, because I was still blaming everything on being a lawyer, everything was legal's fault and my boss's fault and all of that kind of stuff. So when I go and become a health coach, like clearly everything's going to be smooth sailing. Well, I start coaching and I do get some clients, mostly lawyer related people, but I get these clients and I'm like, I hate this. This is not for me. And first of all, this doesn't make any sense to me to do one-to-one time trade. Like even as a businesswoman, I was like, this doesn't. And I just didn't feel like I was very good at it. So that's when I started exploring things like courses and, oh, can I create a digital product? Like, let me see what else is out there. And in doing so, I could not stop people from contacting me saying, hey, I saw that you're a lawyer and you also do this. So like, do I need an LLC for this like little online business that I'm trying to start? Or what kind of contract do I need for selling a digital product? And I was like, why are you asking me? Surely there must be somebody who's out there doing it, right? So I started poking around, started doing research, and I'm like, I see a big hole in the market. And that's when I decided, it was about a year into my health coaching business. That's when I decided to start a legal templates business. And that took off right away.
Yes, and that's what I know has blown up for you. What year was that legal template shop sort of started?
I started in the beginning of 2017.
2017. So, I mean, that wasn't a long, long time ago when it felt like, okay, I have to be early in order to succeed. I mean, there were, I'm sure, other resources. I know like LegalZoom existed and other things like that. Why did yours take off? What was it that you did to get this in front of more people?
Yeah, so I felt very seriously about the fact that there needed to be somebody who was very chill, somebody who was laid back, somebody who did not use fear as the primary driver of their marketing, which is not my personality. And I'm kind of divorced from this whole lawyer thing. I'm just kind of like, hey guys, this is what you need to do. But like, I'm not like shoving it down your throat. I'm not telling you you're going to lose everything if you don't do this. It's just like, hey, you want to start a business? These are the 3 steps you need to take. And that's it. And I was just very laid back about it. I was never in the business of telling people that they needed stuff that they didn't need. I think speaking a little bit of truth about some of the things I saw going on in the online business, like business coaches who called themselves millionaires because their business generated 7 figures and they don't even know the difference between like net worth and money generated in their business. So I started talking about these things, and I think what I heard resoundingly over and over in the beginning was, where have you been? This is what we've been looking for.
Wow.
Yeah. And then also just being somebody, I guess, who also had started a coaching business. And then they were like, oh, you get it. You get what I'm doing. You know what an online course is. I don't have to explain it to you. Like LegalZoom, they're not going to understand what you're doing with the podcast at the time, especially people didn't really get it.
Yeah. I'm hearing 2 things that absolutely worked in your favor here. Number one, although the coaching business kind of failed, or you did it and you realized you didn't want to do it no more, it was still experience that has helped you build credibility and authority with those who were going through the same thing. And you were able to find out what those people needed by having once been one of those people. And secondly, and more importantly, I feel, is that it seems you brought your personality into this. Like, it's legal. It's A, scary for a lot of people, B, overwhelming, and just feels like it's just so many words. There's too many words. I don't know what's going on. When you say that you were just like chill about it, how did that come out? What did that look like? Was it blog posts that you were writing? It doesn't feel like you just created like a Shopify store and were like, here are the templates. How were you showing up?
So the very first thing I did, I built my own website through WordPress, but it created a WooCommerce site with all my legal templates. I started studying SEO because I was thinking off the bat, my kind of business is going to be a very Googleable business. People are obviously looking for these things. So that was one thing. I wrote 10 very SEO optimized blog posts off the bat that were pretty general that led to lead magnets that were very specific to those blog posts. So I accidentally took email list building very seriously early on. But I also thought about it from an image perspective. So I took this really seriously. Like, I remember when I did all of my branding, when I started, I looked at all of the color psychology, and I didn't want any reds, any yellows, any orange, anything that signified fear or alarm. I wanted all blues and greens and things that were calming and that felt very chill. And I was very adamant when I did my first photo shoot, for example, that I was wearing normal clothes, no lawyer stuff. Everybody tries to put me in suits and blazers every time I go to do a photo shoot. I'm like, that is the opposite, because I want to make sure that I am connoting this is not it. I also tapped into what I knew my audience liked. And this has been a strategy I've used I'm still doing this, but I talk about other things that I know that my customers also enjoy. So I talk about food. I talk about travel. I have a dog. I share about him all the time. I talk about my personal journey of what's happened with my parents dying and me having brain surgery. So that stuff has pulled in. I'm a lawyer who has over 46,000 people on my email list. The fact that 46,000 people want to get an email from a lawyer with legal tips, I'm like, you guys can do anything. But it's also because I have talked about and expanded these other things, and the sales have only grown and grown.
Those personal things have played such a major role for you, and it has for me. I think everybody listening to this knows that I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. They were there when my son was born and when he came on the podcast, and now he's like got a deeper voice than I do now and doesn't want to spend as much time with me anymore. But that's just what teenage life is. And so like even just by sharing that right now, right, I'm making a connection with people who've gone through that before or who understand it. It brings the human element into this. And especially for legal, it's no surprise that it worked for you. Absolutely. So combining the personality with what seems like really good internet marketing tactics. So you mentioned SEO, you mentioned building an email list. What else has been working for you to grow this business? And if you could share in any way that you're comfortable, like how big has this business grown?
So it's been a multi-7-figure business every single year since 2020.
Gee whiz. How much do the templates sell for?
An individual legal template is $347, but my number one, and I think this is another thing that another tip I would give to the audience of what's led to this success, is I only sell two things. So I sell all my legal templates a la carte, but then I also sell this program called the Ultimate Bundle that gives people 14 legal templates, and then all of these video trainings from me teaching them how to get an LLC, how to get business insurance, how to get their contracts in place, get trademarks and copyrights, for example, gives them community. That sells like crazy. We just had a $348,000 launch in 4 days 2 weeks ago. And so, yes, we sell a lot of legal stuff. And I think that, I mean, a lot of the stuff we talked about has helped, but actually there's an email marketing strategy that I've been using for the past year that's working really well, which is that, you know, I've always been a freebies person and have lots of good freebies that people can opt into. I have a webinar people can watch, but I also knew that my email itself is really valuable. So just getting my email every week is a lot of value. I answer legal questions. I update an online business news every week. It's very similar to yours. There's just it filled with like lots of valuable sections. And so I started marketing directly to the newsletter itself as the freebie, essentially, and just made it super easy for people to get on my email list without going through this long funnel. And that has worked beautifully. So that's been going well.
And you're using Kit for email?
Yeah, so I use Kit. I've used them the whole time. And I have a podcast called On Your Terms. So that has worked. That has been much more of a nurture tool, I will admit. I originally started it as more of a lead gen for me. It has been a very big nurture tool, which has also been great. And I'm on YouTube too.
Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed, all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Hiring shouldn't be a hassle or a drain on your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check all in one place. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way that they staff key projects and initiatives by assessing a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI, design, administration support, marketing, and more. And I've personally used them myself and can vouch for them. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Go there now. How are you getting people to sign up to a legal newsletter? And to have launches that big, it seems like you'd need either a lot of people. I'm still baffled by how you can. Let's get a little bit deeper on, let's say you're building this email list. How are you, number one, getting in front of them and then convincing them to come over for legal advice that, like, are they in need of that and that's why, or is there something else?
I would say yes, most of the time it is why. When I send out an email every single Tuesday, my inbox dings like crazy. And what I see, Ruth replies, and what I see again and again is like, you are one of the only people whose emails I read. I love your email. I love your email. I think I have combined this personal element. So my email always starts with some sort of personal essay. It's usually some sort of lesson, like the guy I saw at the farmer's market, for example, who would not start his sourdough business, but kept telling everybody he was going to. That became one of my most popular emails last year. And we did this deep dive into why this guy would not start his sourdough business. And I turned this into a business lesson. And then there's a section about a legal Q&A where they can submit.
Oh, that's great.
So I have done, I think, a good job with the visuals of it. I share a lot about the visuals on Instagram, on my podcast, on YouTube now, really pushing people to it. But I think we have some pretty quippy copy. It helps. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Pulling these stories that are just happening in real life and bringing a lesson into it. And that one, I'm imagining that I haven't gotten that email, haven't subscribed, although I will now. Tell me about that email in particular. You tell that story. How does it lead into the business stuff that you're talking about?
This is a perfect example. So last summer, I go to the farmer's market every single Sunday. I'm waiting in line. This guy near me makes the best sourdough I've ever had. He's an engineer turned sourdough artisan. Unbelievable, this guy. So he bought a space in our little downtown, and he has been telling people for 5 years that he's going to start a bakery. Every week, his line at the farmer's market is wrapped around the block. He sells out every week, and every person in line in front of you will just be like, hey, Jeff, when's the bakery opening? And he's like, oh, I'm getting there. It's coming along. And every week I am just I cannot listen to this anymore. And so I was talking to him last summer, and I said, what's the deal? What's going on with this bakery? And he's like, well, I come here, I sell the bread, and then I take that money and I turn around and I go pay for myself to go do the plumbing and learn how to do electrical and put in the sinks. And I was like, oh, Jeff, we have to get this bakery up and running. And you just can get started. I started talking about the MVP stuff that I write about in the book of just get this product out there. And this doesn't have to be a world-class bakery at this point. Let's just get it up and running, get people in the door. In the email, I tell the story and I turned it around of this careful balance between getting up and running, and we can't wait, and doing everything ourselves, right, can cost us so much more money. And I turned that into a call to action about how you shouldn't try to do legal yourself. And I think we had a $12,000 day.
That's amazing.
Just from that email, which we weren't in a sale or a promo or anything like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great analogy of you can keep trying to be your own plumber and your own electrician and all of that. And you're going to have a line out the door waiting, asking you, when are you ready? I want to give you more money, and you're not even ready to take it. So why don't we get it up and running?
That's great. That's an amazing story. So that's something that happened in your real life. Are you keeping track of these stories, or how are you collecting them, or how are you finding them? Because storytelling, I'm trying to preach it here at SPI. It's, in my opinion, the number one most important skill that anybody can have nowadays, as information just gets completely overwhelming. It's all the same now. So it's how you wrap that information, just like you just did. So Tell me your storytelling collection strategies, I guess you could say.
This is my number one thing. I love it so much. I think about it constantly. Every single thing I see when I'm out and about, it immediately flips in my mind as to how that is a business lesson. Everything I see at the gym, at the grocery store, every show I watch. So I do keep a note on my phone. I have a more serious list in Asana that I keep, kind of running where I'll develop these ideas a bit more. Some are nothing. Some I look back and I'm like, what was I talking about? I don't, or something like I thought was a good idea at the time. But I'll tell you, people love it. I was just on a podcast the other day. I joked that I think I could write about like a peanut in the grocery store and turn it into an email. Like I feel like you can take anything that you see, think about like, what is the metaphor here? What's the analogy? And how can this be a lesson for my audience?
Gosh, you are speaking my language. I said something similar to somebody a couple of years ago when I was talking about storytelling, how, I just told them to point to something and I could just create some lesson around that. And I think it's just the idea of consciously saying, you know what, I'm going to have a more open mind, open my eyes a little bit more, open my ears a little bit more to everything that's around me. It's there. Like there's an endless amount of content that you can create. Yes, there's only a limited amount of information that you can share, but there's an endless amount of ways to share it. So go and find those things that are relatable. And like you said, that bakery story is probably super relatable to your specific target audience. So that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit more about the book. The book thing is interesting because I'm in the middle of a book right now as well. So I, number one, empathize with you and everything that you're going through right now leading up to the launch. And I want to congratulate you because by the time people listen to this, it's probably out there already. And the title is When I Start My Business, I'll Be Happy. Is that I
was being sarcastic.
Sarcastic? That is sarcastic.
Yeah, there's a little question mark. I don't know if you've actually seen the cover.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a little hand-drawn question mark on there because I wanted it to be like an upward inflection, like you're asking a question.
I see it. So tell me about the title and who this book is for and really what it's about.
We came up with this idea for the title because I wanted to dispel this myth off the bat in the book. I have this chapter called Setting Expectations, that a business is going to fix your life, that a business is meant to provide you with your happiness. I feel like that's been a big lesson for me where it was like, why did I ever think like it was my job's job to make me happy? I hope my happiness comes from nothing to do with my job. And then my job is just my job and that's okay. And I love what I do that has nothing to do with it, but it doesn't need to provide me. It doesn't like owe me anything. And there's still a lot that's stressful about running a business. So I sort of wanted to dispel that myth, both on just the practical side, but also because I know that new entrepreneurs, maybe people listening to this, are coming into the online business world and they're getting hit with a lot of content from a lot of people who have motivation to sell them something and they're not telling them really the truth about what it's like to run this kind of business and really what it takes. And so I'm from Philly originally, and I kind of can't help it, but just like tell the truth and kind of how it is. And so part of the book was about that. And then a lot of people over the last 8 years who have stuck around on my email list and elsewhere have been like, by the way, how have you built this kind of business? Like you're a lawyer who does this and you only sell 2 things and you've had all these horrible things happen to you. And like, how are you able to do this? And so I really wanted to like give it all away. I taught my funnel building strategy, how I think about email list building, the way I turn all of these stories into content. It is all in the book.
I love it. So you share a lot of the tactical things in there as well. But like your email, I'm sure there are some stories in there that make an impact. I'm curious if you could surface 1 or 2 of those and why they're relevant to us as business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I talk a lot about how when I started this business, I didn't really think it would go anywhere. I didn't know. I wasn't really sure. And it did grow. It's obviously grown quite an audience over the years, and how that also brought up a lot of things like how you might not think one of the things you might be thinking when I start my business, I'll be happy, but you might not consider the fact that when you start your business, you'll feel a bit exposed. You will have imposter syndrome. Even sitting here today, I have it all the time and I'm still terrified to go do so many different things. I'm speaking at ConvertKit. I'm terrified to go do that. And, all of these things still come up. So I talk a lot about, these various moments throughout the years of that coming up. I share a really fun, so my dad passed away and he was like my best friend. And so I share this cute story about how when I started this business, he didn't take it seriously because I didn't have a briefcase. And so he thought that like all serious businesses required like a person carrying a brief. And he was just like, I don't get it. Like, you're on your computer and like, that's it. He was a little older. And so he didn't get it. But it's this like really fun chapter talking about how other people might not quite understand what you do and not looking to other people maybe for your approval of like what you're doing or understanding, and staying very focused on your target audience and consumer too.
Yeah, I love that. I remember my dad going to work with a briefcase as well. And I always wondered what was inside. I never knew. I never found out. Like, it could have just
lots
been
of papers.
Like candy or something. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like now that we have laptops and stuff, that's essentially a briefcase to the world. But, as far as what it takes to succeed in business, you just lightly touched on that. I'd love to hear maybe your bird's eye perspective of all the things it takes. It sounds like, in your opinion, it takes some personality and being yourself, finding an audience and kind of staying narrow in who you serve and why you serve them and what you serve them with. What else does it take to succeed in business through your experience?
I think it takes creating a really good product that actually, or service or whatever, but that actually works and that helps people, and that you are really good at quickly explaining to me, like, what is this thing? Why does it help me? Why should I care about it? And what's different about it than the other things that are offered?
It's so funny you mentioned that, because it's like, isn't that obvious? Like, shouldn't we sell something that works?
I don't think that enough. I write about this so much in the book about how, like, just come back to making sure you do a really good job. Like, I talk a lot about in the book about how my product itself, not only like the Ultimate Bundle, for example, we have a little over 4,000 people in it and people love it. But then also I provide really, really good customer service. I still answer all of my emails. I'm in the community every day answering customers' questions. They then go out and tell lots of other people about it. And it's the best form of marketing that I could possibly ask for. And so, yeah, I don't know why we overcomplicate it with all these like tips and tricks and trends. But I'm like, my product is really good. I'm really good at explaining it because I understand what you need and what problem it solves and why that will help you. And then I just show up and do a really good job with the product. And instead of running off and creating 300 other products, I just focus on making this one better and then getting those same people to purchase additional things from me if I have other things to offer.
Yeah, that's clearly laid out. However, we're always battling with more and bright light syndrome and this over here, this happening over here. How do you battle that? I mean, you had mentioned earlier, you see business opportunities everywhere. You see stories everywhere. Are you getting pulled by other things? And how do you stay in your lane? What are some mechanisms you use to make sure you're still focused on what you should be focused on?
Yeah, I think that's one time when my dad had leukemia and I was taking care of him, and then he passed away and then my mom died. I feel like that helped me accidentally just really keep my head down. I didn't have the ability. I'm sure a lot of people can relate who maybe have other more positive things going on. Like maybe you've had a child or you have another job. Like you don't have the luxury of doom scrolling, and that wasn't even on my radar. And that's also what then pushed me to be like, I've heard about this thing called funnels. How can I create an evergreen funnel? And I went out and created that and bucked the trend of I never ran it live because I didn't have time. I couldn't afford to. I needed to go straight to it. And so I think tuning into some of those things of like just keeping your eye on the prize. I talk a lot in the book about keeping your head down and eyes on your own paper, very like school like rules. And I know for me, social media is such a vice, like where I get drawn into it sometimes. And that's when I notice that my attention starts to drift. And when I can disconnect from that, I can tune back into like my email list is my moneymaker. Any of my other lead generations are my moneymaker. I can just focus on that and let ads even do the work, for example, if I want to do that. But that seems to be like the worst thing for my attention.
That's great advice. Are you active on social? And when you are, how do you not get pulled into those rabbit holes that we often can get pulled, those algorithms that are just like, they know us better than we know ourselves sometimes? Like you're engaged with your audience, but What do you do? How do you manage that?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm at Sam Vander Wielen on Instagram, but I flirt with it. I spend too much time and then I will pull back. But my rule with Instagram or with social media in general from day one has always been, if I'm creating content for this platform, the content itself at least is going to be evergreen, so that if somebody finds this today or 6 months from now, it still has a call to action to my top of funnel. And it's everything I do there is to pull in email list leads. So I'm not showing up there to talk about other nonsense. Everything there is going straight to my email list. And I have as many Instagram followers as I have email lists. And I don't think that's by accident, because I have spent a lot of time there just being like, if I'm showing up here, this is what I'm doing. And I use it to connect personally with some people. But yeah, frankly, it's something I spent a lot of the last several months thinking about. That if I had my druthers, I would not really be on it. I would just, and a lot of my friends will be like, why can't you? I mean, you can. I think it's more of a mental thing that I think there's some reason I have to. But people I look up to, like you, for example, although you have a following, I know you are not personally there all the time, spending all your time there, and you have much bigger fish to fry. And so that's more of the direction I'd like to go in moving forward. Yeah.
I found that with all the choices out there, pick the one or two that you're going to focus on, and I like to call it opt out of those other ones, right? It's not I'm losing out on those opportunities. I choose not to go there so that I can say yes to here and put more effort and time to there. And for me in particular, because I'm not great and disciplined when I'm on social, I give myself time boundaries. I have this much time to create on there. And maybe there's a little bit of nonsense in some of those places from my end, but I know that at some point I'm done. And then I can move on to the next thing that's in my calendar. These are really, really important pieces of advice, and we could continue to talk for hours, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, Sam, at the Craft and Commerce, because you're going to be speaking on stage there with me. Not at the same time, but we're on the same stage there. Yeah. I love that event. And by then I'll be able to hear how your book is done. And I'm really excited about that. And hopefully you can wish me luck on mine as soon as it's just freshly released while at that event. But super happy that you're here. I'd love to ask you one final question. We talked about a lot of things. If you could distill for the beginner entrepreneur who's listening right now, the one most important piece of advice from your perspective to help them get to that next level, to help them move forward, what would that piece of advice be?
To really tune in to what your customers or the people you want to be your customers are looking for, and to where we really have to step back and make sure we're not creating content, products, or services that we want because we think it's a good idea, but creating it really from their perspective and what they're asking for, or at the very least, focusing all of your marketing messaging on them. I work very hard to talk to customers, get tons of voice of customer research, and literally take exact words and phrases that they say, and you will see it every day in my content and my emails. It's very, very intentional. And I think that has been a big, big driver. So I would encourage you to get in touch with people, ask them to meet you on Zoom, get on a call, do what you have to do, ask their permission. The lawyer in me will tell you, ask their permission to get the recording. And you can even use tools now that track commonalities and phrases people use, and really pay attention to that stuff. The stuff is in the details.
And of course, I know the answer to this question, which is if you need some legal templates and to figure out how to do this correctly, head over to vanwilderwieland.com, and we'll have the links in the show notes for everybody. And check out the new book, When I Start My Business, I Will Be Happy? ? There's a question mark at the end there. Thank you again for your time today. This was absolutely amazing. Where can people find you on Instagram just before you go?
Yeah, I'm at Sam Vander Wielen on Instagram. And then On Your Terms is my podcast if you like listening to podcasts.
Yes, and you're listening to a podcast right now, so go ahead and subscribe. It'll be very easy to go find that On Your Terms. And Sam, thank you so much for this. This was amazing, and I wish you all the best with the book and everything else. Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview and conversation with Sam Vander Wielen, and definitely check out her book, When I Start a Business, I Will Be Happy? ? Once again. And also check out her podcast, On Your Terms, since you're listening to this podcast already. And if you need some legal templates, Sam Vander Wielen, WIELEN.com. And I look forward to potentially seeing some of you over in Boise at Craft and Commerce. Go ahead and check out that event. Would love to meet you there. Would be happy to sign a book there for you as well. And I'm sure that Sam would too if you pick it up. So definitely check it out. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for listening all the way through. And we got an amazing episode next week about your energy and managing expectations and continuing to move forward despite things maybe getting hard sometimes. So if that sounds right up your alley, or you want to make sure you avoid burnout, definitely hit subscribe. I look forward to that episode and hanging out with you next week. Until then, cheers, take care. Thank you for all the amazing reviews coming in on Apple, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. Hey, fellow podcaster, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create these social clips. Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. You just log in, record with your guests no matter where you are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. We use Riverside here at SPI as well now. With built-in AI, I can automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time, and it can even auto-generate clips to make promoting the show a breeze. And with Magic Clips, I can grab the best moments and repurpose them as short-form video, perfect for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, without re-recording a thing. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside, built by creators for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART.